Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Present. This episode is a special episode tucked in between and among all the episodes that Streamrolla and I are doing for RPG A Day 2025. This was a very cool interview and conversation I had with Graham Spearing. Graham Spearing is an author of several products, including the Age of Arthur, Heroic Fantasy First and Second Edition, Tripod Essence, some Mindjammer products, and he runs First Age Entertainment. I play a lot with him, and I met him on the Dungeon Musings actual play channel run by the dungeon user Kevin Madison, and I really had a great time talking to him. So here we go. My conversation with Graham Spearing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I have a special guest with me again today, and his name is Graham Spearing of First Age Entertainment. How are you doing this morning, Graham? Or afternoon?
Hey, hi, Carl. Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. Yes, it's 3 p.m. here.
Oh, yeah. So for me, it's in the morning time.
Okay.
But I've had the pleasure of meeting Graham through Dungeon Musings, Kevin Madison's very popular actual play podcast, YouTube. And it's been great to get to know him. And it's amazing the people that Kevin has on his channel, a lot of creators. And it's great to learn about Graham, his play style, and how that translates to, well, his publishing company, First Age Entertainment. So I guess the first thing we do, though, when we have these conversations is, like, ask the question, how did you get into the hobby? Like, what were you playing way back? And how have you continued?
And it is way back. It is way back. So first of all, it's great to have an extended chat with you, Carl.
Yeah, we've always wanted to. We always do. After.
Yeah.
Kevin,
it's nice because
you guys don't know, but Kevin has like a debriefing after our games, which is usually very entertaining.
Yeah, we've sort of met over sort of somewhere in chartered space and so on, but sort of not in the real. But yeah, so I do go back. So you can do the maths. So I started gaming in 1981, and it was my first year at university. So that sort of immediately ages me somewhat. So I was 18, and I suppose my background, I'd never done tabletop role-playing at all before the university. I got The Hobbit book when I was 9, and I spent sort of my formative teenage years poring over the sort of maps of Middle-earth and so on. And if you like, that was my base camp for the fantastical, although obviously I sort of read other things, and I'd devoured Moorcock as well. So I'm one of these people who actually can heartily embrace both the sort of Tolkien world and the sort of vivid 1960s Moorcock world, and everything in between. But I went to what we call a freshers show, which is where new people at the university can go and join societies, of which there was always a bewildering array. You could join socialist workers, or you could join the Greens, or as I was passing through a refectory, I passed something called the Not Only Dungeons and Dragons Society at Sheffield University.
That's cool.
And somebody said to me, "Oh, so do you like sort of fantastical stuff at all? Tolkien. Oh, right. So how about playing in Tolkien's world then? Would you fancy that?" Yeah, I quite like that. And that was the pitch. And I said, "Well, I'll give it a go." And a few of my sort of corridor mates in the halls of residence that we were in also joined up, and we went down one fateful evening, not having really the faintest idea what we were letting ourselves in for, and we got to play straight away. They put us in a group and we played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition,
Mhm.
which was, if you like, the D&D of the moment. At least it was sort of quite commonly played. I think some of the books were still coming out, but it was very very much played. And we played that, and it was I think a lot of people who've come into the hobby and played those first few games, if it resonates with you, it really resonates with you. And I came away thinking, that was mind blowing. Theoretically, I could do anything. I played Will Aleslurper, a first level lawful good hobbit fighter. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was told, I was told absolutely definitively, well, you can't be a paladin because you haven't got X or Y. You can't be X, and you can't. So I ended up being a hobbit fighter, which fine. I still got the character card somewhere from
Oh,
1981.
that's
I
awesome.
think I think I still have it. I'm
That's
looking
great.
around actually
Yeah, I was
to
gonna
see if I
ask,
can see
like,
it.
what was your, do you remember your first character? But yeah, you answered it.
Yeah, it
So
was great.
how long did Will survive?
Well, as I recall, and forgive me, it's a little hazy,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I'm afraid we did do the Tomb of Horrors.
Oh,
Um, and I think he put his
at first level, or when
no, no,
you
no, no.
when you
So
reached up.
no,
Oh, you
we
got
played a little.
yeah, yeah, you got up to that level. That's great. Okay.
Well, I don't know if we got. I don't know if he was at the right level. I've got no
Oh,
idea, but I
okay.
think he was a little bit too impulsive for that
Um,
particular place, and I think he stuck his hand in some kind of hole somewhere, and
did you really? Wow, oh, that's funny.
and
That's good.
I think he became a gnome. I think or something. I think
Oh,
he some magical effect which transformed him into a gnome illusionist or something. I don't really know. It all went very strange. So I sort of cast a veil on that, but it was good fun. Um, and we played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in our university years. So sort of roughly 1981, sort of to 84, we played that. Um, but I have to say, in my university years, we very quickly found another game.
okay.
And this one really spoke to me. I mean, AD&D First Edition, great fun. Absolutely great fun, but it didn't make any sense to me at all. Although I did devour the books. Um, Literally, I would say in that first term, so somewhere between October and December 81, somebody turned up, one of my roommates turned up with a white copy of RuneQuest First Edition.
Hmm.
And that took us into effectively Chaosium. And the interesting thing for me was, whereas I thought AD&D was a huge amount of fun, and there's all sorts of random things going on, if I wanted to visualize in my mind what was happening in play, RuneQuest, because it had that sort of simulationist air to it, RuneQuest properly transported me into the action of what was happening. And so we became really big fans of the Chaosium stable of the time. So definitely, well, early our version of Glorantha. So we played that to death, and got the box sets of the time. And probably the seminal game might have been Stormbringer. So we played first and second edition Stormbringer, again, harking back to the Moorcock of my
Right.
sort of 14, 15-year-old youth, and the sort of craziness of that game. And in the end, we just anything we play, we just said, well, we'll just reskin Stormbringer because it's the BRP system, which of course
Right.
is still going today, and there's
Hmm.
very recently been a new version of it. So that's how I started, and then the games that we played at the time were emblematic of the 1980s. So I played AD&D until I left university, and then I never played it again.
Oh,
But for the others, we just kept playing. So we played all the Chaosium games. We played a bit of Ring World, and we played
oh, I
Elf
love
Quest.
Ringworld is I I tracked that down and so happy I have a copy.
Oh yeah,
It's a
it's
cool game.
rare.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
cool game. I
yeah.
have one
I mean,
supplement
just
too, but yeah, it's neat.
yeah, yeah. It didn't have legs, as many of
No,
their
no.
boxes didn't. But I think once Worlds of Wonder came out, which I think was about 84-ish, um, around about the mid 80s, um, that was the first attempt, I think, at systematically providing a generic or a multi-genre engine. And if you think about it, 32 pages BRP book,
Yeah.
and then three other 32-page books, which let you do sort of fantasy, sort of science fiction, and so on, and superpowers, all in one box. So we did a bit of that.
Mm.
And the other seminal game is what I would call my forever game, because I'm still playing it quite frequently, and that is Traveller. So we played a lot of Traveller in our university ages. And I have to say, in the mid to late 80s, I did a lot of FGU. So I did. We played CNS second edition, Shiver and Sorcery. We actually played Space Opera, and we believe we understood it. We played Aftermath, we played Flashing Blades, we played Daredevils. These are sort of games that are not entirely lost to now, but I suspect many people who come into the hobby will never have heard of FGU, will never have heard of any of those games, possibly CNS because it's still taken up by Britannia Games. But yeah, it was actually a rich time, and although
yeah, I agree. There's so many games that
it didn't have the volume of what we have today in terms of, small publishers, even like me, sort of chucking stuff out. So it didn't have that volume, but there was still a heck of a lot that you could get into. Villains and Vigilantes, if you wanted to do superheroes, or the Golden Heroes. We played a bit of that. So there was actually acres of stuff you could do, just as there is today. And it cemented the hobby for me. And one of the things I would say is a lot of people, they play in their university years, then they grow up and they do serious, sensible things. And then perhaps they start to come back to the hobby at some point. I never stopped.
Oh, okay.
So
that was my next
even if
question.
I didn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
yeah,
So
I
you
didn't really stop.
continue to play
Yeah,
throughout.
yeah. So it's been about what's that now? 44 years, I suppose. Which is 11 Traveller terms.
Yeah.
And if you know your Traveller, that's a lot. I mean, I should be massively skilled in everything. And my stats should all be 0. I mean, that bit feels about right, but yeah. So I never really stopped. There were times when I couldn't get a group, but I felt engaged in the hobby by just having the books and reading them, kind of thing, and I was still interested. But yeah, so and obviously I play today, so it's been with me for quite a while, and I still love the hobby. I've not grown at all jaundiced or down on it. It's generally been a little thing in the background, which has been a bit of joy.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's had its ups and downs, and you play different games throughout this hobbying career, if you want to call it that, right? So,
Yeah.
and then I think the '80s with all that breadth of games, it's kind of a lot of financial woes for a lot of these companies that kind of truncated, and then but then it's now again it's expanded, which I think is great. Right? And then a lot of these games that we played way back have come back very strong, like Traveller, right? So
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. They say in life, don't they? They say never go back. But I have to say, I have gone back, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I did go back to Space Opera and discovered I couldn't play it now. I could play it when I was like, I don't know, 22 or 23 or something. But I really, I mean, I can't find a reason to go back to that particular one. CNS was a particularly important game for me, so that was a game that I knew backwards, and maybe I'll go back to the second edition. But the interesting thing for me was I didn't really play D&D again until I purposefully, because my daughter, back around about 2015, she was just getting into the hobby, and she was interested in D&D. It was a bit later, actually. It was 2000 and it was around about the time of Pathfinder second edition. So was that 2018? Not quite sure, but it was a bit later on. And I thought, well, if she's going to get into D&D, I really ought to rediscover it. I do have a friend who kept every edition, third, 3.5, fourth, fifth. He always used to run a game, so we could always play it. So we played it once, but I genuinely just didn't play it. The whole level and hit point design thing, Chaosium just flattened for me. I just thought I just can't be doing with that. It just doesn't work for me. But then I did discover it much later in life, and then I've been going back to other games. So I'm known a little bit for the person who missed completely fourth edition. I just missed it because I wasn't playing D&D during that time, and it got a really bad rep. And I thought, well, if it's got a really bad rep, I must look at it. And I looked at fourth edition. I thought, wow, this actually is a stunning game. And so I played over the COVID lockdown over here in the UK. That coincided with me discovering, of all things, D&D fourth edition, and I played it online with a group right through COVID. So it was like a little harbour. The Nentir Vale was the place we went to sort of not think about the strange things and horrendous things going on around us. But so it is quite interesting. And I have gone back to other games. So sometimes you can do that. Traveller has always been there and has been very cleverly reinvented by Mongoose to have that feel of the original books, but by a slightly more modern cast. And very recently, and again, you mentioned Kevin Madsen's Dungeon Musings channel. Well, Kevin is a big one for going back to games that he loves and just running them, and he is incredible actually for the volume that he gets through and for the breadth of games that he likes. So he's introduced me to systems that I would never have done so. And a recent example is Fantasycraft.
Right. Yeah, that's been a really fun 3.5. It's a 3.5 chassis, but it does a lot of different things, right? So.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great game. And I would never have discovered that because not only is it a fork off, if you like, of the sort of D&D OGL of the time, and then Crafty Games went wild with it. True 20 is Green Ronin's Fantasycraft for me. It's another incredibly inventive take on the D&D design. So I've discovered these games after they've long, if you like, quote unquote, died. I mean, they haven't died, have they? But they're not in the zeitgeist. They're not being currently published very much to. And I discover them after the fact. And so I'm not afraid to go back. But, I'm also, I buy far too many games.
What's interesting is that some of the concepts in these games, for example, True D20, and then they have their Super Green Ronin has their superhero game, right? As well, Mutants and Masterminds. But a lot of those kind of concepts, for example, we're not going to have the actual number, but just the bonus. Something that like Pathfinder in a way. Fifth edition, on the character sheet at least incorporates, right? So
yeah, it was a very interesting time.
We don't see the number anymore. We don't see the bonus. And Pathfinder has totally embraced that. And then a lot of concepts I would say that we saw in fourth edition have come back in like Pathfinder. Right. So,
absolutely. I mean, fourth edition, echoes of fourth edition are seen in lots of different games, and I think it's interesting around about the fourth edition time.
Fantasycraft has that minions thing, right? So
stunning. I mean, really clever. So the people took the OGL and either they went wild with it, True 20, Fantasycraft, or they doubled down on it, Paizo, Pathfinder first edition. So it was a very interesting time. So I've enjoyed those games as well.
Yeah. Well, so how or when did the transition come about to getting into like publishing and game designs? I guess from being a fan to an actual athlete, I guess. A participant in the creative process of the hobby. I mean, we create all the time. I think we play.
Yeah, we do. I probably need to get my sort of timeline properly sorted out in my own head, but I think one of the great things about the hobby, and I don't know how you feel about this, or indeed perhaps your listeners can reflect on this. One of the great things about it is you can express yourself creatively in the hobby in a whole host of different ways. And it could be anything from picking up a book and reading it and really enjoying it and let your mind go wild with, the concepts and the possibilities. That in itself is part of the hobby. There's sort of acquiring and reading. That's a part of it. There's play. Obviously, play is central to it, and personally exploring, believable worlds or alternative worlds, through the eyes of different people, and indeed running those games, which can be incredibly creative. Or indeed things like you do yourself, Carl, sort of doing actual plays, running podcasts, writing blogs, so you can, you can express yourselves in different ways in that way. So it's quite broad, and I think, one of the nice things, and probably one of the things that's kept the hobby fresh for me, is that I've looked to explore it in different ways. So either I enjoy reading a book, or playing a particular new game that, perhaps I wouldn't personally want to buy, but I'd love to actually try it and play it. Or indeed, in this case, writing for it. And that came quite late, quite a bit later, probably sort of 2012, 13, 14 were around about the times that I started to write. And I just think, honestly, there was a couple of drivers to it. I think one of them was actually, I mean, this sounds, I don't know. I don't know. No, I'll just say, I'm just going to go out there. There were some games that I were really dissatisfied with. I just thought, oh, that's a shame. If only they had
Only
dot,
yeah.
dot, dot. And so I thought, well, oh dear, the hubris of it. I thought, well, I could do better than that. If I wanted to run a game, I would do it this way. And so quite a lot happened around about 2014. Sort of two things happened. So one of the games that I struggled with a little bit, again, if you follow the Chaosium line, you've got basic role play, and then they produced a really interesting sort of story narrative game called Hero Quest, or Hero Wars and Hero Quest. And I loved Hero Quest, actually, certainly the first edition, and in particular what Mark Galeotti did with Hero Quest when he wrote Mythic Russia, which is a stunning game. And I haven't played that one enough, actually. I probably need to get that back off the shelf. So I loved a lot of the concepts, because sometimes you find a game is sort of pushes the boundaries that you thought was possible. I did that with the D6 engine with West End Games, when their Star Wars game came out in '87. And I looked at that and I thought, I would never have thought of doing it like that. That's really clever, and it's really fun, and it's evocative, and it feels bouncy and space operatic. How on earth did they do that? And obviously that was drawn from Ghostbusters and other Chaosium designs, actually, that kicked that off. And Hero Quest was another one. Describe your character in 100 words. Right, let's take those 100 words. Let's pull out some key traits from there, and those will be abilities that you can use in play. So that particular conceit was great. The way it was a very open-ended powers-based system, where you've got masteries and you've got several masteries, and that they kind of offset each other. It's really cleverly done. But one of the things that happened, or was happening, was there was a lot of talk about a second edition where they introduced something called sort of like a story logic to it, which I understood what they were doing. I think it was a Robin Laws design, and it was very clever, and I could see what he was doing, which was kind of said, the difficulty that you face as an adventurer in a game is scaled to your previous successes and failures. So you're kind of modeling a pass-fail cycle through a narrative, much as you get in film and story and novels and so on, where you might do very well to start with, but then possibly you hit a roadblock, but then you've got to overcome that, and then perhaps things get easier again. And so that it's like a very malleable, narrative driven resistance, which means that story objects such as a lock or a foe aren't themselves intrinsically having any stats at all, because they're not the thing that you're modeling. You're modeling the pass fail cycle. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing Hero Quest justice here, by the way. But essentially, I looked at that and I thought that's a bit too Wizard of Oz for me. It's like pulling the curtain aside and seeing the little guy sort of pulling the
Pulling the
levers
strings,
and
yeah.
yeah. And I just think, I kind of see that. So I said, right, stop that. I like a lot of that. I'll just write my own game, which was, as I say, hubris, but I wrote Wordplay,
Mhm.
which was a sort of trait-based narrative dice pool game, which has since become Tripod. So I wrote a second edition for it, which is Traits in Pools of Dice, and it's a very simple to play D6 dice pool game where you basically use phrases, and a phrase becomes a thing in the world, and you just give it some dice. And then you basically form dice pools from the environment, from your equipment, from the support of others. If somebody supports you, they give you their dice. So your pool has got their dice in as well as yours, and you roll them and you see whether their support actually helps you. And then you play out very simple. Do I get more successes than you? Yes, I win. And if you win, how much do you win by? And that kind of stuff. So it took a lot of the Hero Quest stuff, but did it in a way that I really felt was more me, and again a very personal thing. So, but so I went through the process of publishing through drive-through, and I had a friend, Don Mooney, who did a marvelous job on the layout for me. So he actually did the layout for me, and I had Stephanie McCallier did she did a beautiful little cover for it, and suddenly I had a book, which was a joy. And then from there, I did some more bits. I did subsequently do a second edition called Tripod. You'll find these on drive-through should you really wish to go.
I
And we
will
did
provide a link. I'll provide a link to your catalog.
I'm not going to shill my goods too much,
But
but
I can.
Age of Arthur was the other
Yeah.
one. So Age of Arthur was an interesting one. Um, how did that come about? It was an interesting one. So a lot of my writing for I've done a little bit for Cubicle 7, a little bit for Mindjammer Press, and published through Modifius. And we did Age of Arthur ourselves. And these are all done with somebody much more famous than me, Paul Mitchener.
Yeah.
Paul, particularly known, I think, for Liminal and is it Out of the Ashes? So he's done a number of great games. So I was slightly on his coattails, and it was lovely to work with Paul. And we are doing a second edition at the moment of Age of Arthur. Age of Arthur came out about 2013, I think it was. Yes, it was 2013, and it was just prior to Fate Core. It's a Fate-based game, but we took VCA's, I think it's VSA's or VSA's science fiction game Diaspora, and we took that version of Fate and brought it over into a 5th century game of Arthurian Britain with the decline and withdrawal of the Roman Empire in Britannia, the warring British tribes, the incoming Saxons, and it was very much a sort of dark age, as we still call it in the game. We call it a dark age largely because of the amount of historical and archaeological information about the age, although that's increasing and becoming much more available all the time. And so we wanted to ground it as a really grounded early medieval game. So not Pendragon,
Okay, good.
not
Yeah,
Mallory.
You're like anticipating my question. Right.
Sorry, I'm blathering.
No, that's great. No, I'd rather you talk than me. That's gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just the question I was going to ask. How does it differ from Pendragon? But you kind of outlined it. That it's more
Yeah.
based on historical archaeology as we understand it versus Mallory, right?
It was. Well, what we did was we said, however, there's
However,
always a however.
yeah.
However, let's have fey courts, shan't we? Let's have giants. Let's
Oh.
have the old magic of Britain.
Mhm.
Um, um, sort of almost like sort of Celtic sort of
Sure. Yeah.
tribes and so on.
Hmm.
So we sort of weaved hopefully some verisimilitude with the historical setting, but then we weaved in um, the sort of fickle fey courts. The fact that Rome has gone has broken things up within Britain, and we do a bit more of this in the second edition. And basically, it's a whole series of fragmented warlords grasping onto some of the residue of the structure of Rome, um, which has loosened things up, which has given opportunities to some of the old magic and
Hmm.
the Fey courts to sort of come to more prominence.
Okay.
Um, so it was great fun, and I've done some other bits. I've written again with Paul a supplement that Far Havens for Sarah Newton's Mindjammer uh, science fiction role playing game, Mindjammer
Hmm.
Press. Sarah's marvelous opus to
Hmm.
modern science fiction, I would say, fate based. Um, Quite
Although
a
there
number of
is there
supplements,
is a traveler edition.
which didn't sell well.
Oh,
So the interesting thing
unfortunately.
about it, no,
Yeah,
it
yeah, we
didn't.
can talk
And
about that. Yeah, because
yeah,
right. So I like Mindjammer, but it is a hard sell because of the modern sensibility or modern sci-fi vibe that you have, kind of based a lot on Werner Binge's work, transhumanism, sentience, as we don't really sentience as more than just human, right? So I think that's the concept that you see a lot in modern sci-fi, but I I feel like role playing wise, people still want to cling to this military sci-fi golden age, Honor
yeah,
Harrington type of stuff,
yeah,
which are great, but
yeah,
let's expand our horizons. Let's look at more speculative fiction and what's really in the zeitgeist, especially contemporarily with AI. What does AI mean? What does sentience mean? I mean, shoot, look at octopi. We're finding more about how fascinating octopi are, right? So
yeah. It's a stunning game. It really is a stunning game, and it's um, they did put out, as you say, a traveller edition of the game, and I mean, I wasn't involved in decision making. So, I mean, Sarah, I think, was persuaded perhaps that was a good thing to do and might sort of bring people into the Mindjammer world. But interestingly, it wasn't. I don't think it was as popular as it was thought it might be. Um, but the Mindjammer setting, yeah, asks the question, what does it mean to be a thinking sentient? Um, and it does mean that you can play around with that really, really well. I suppose one of the things about the game is that it is fate.
yeah,
So it's a fate core. I think it's pretty much a fate core, and it's been done with a completeness a real strong completeness that you will see in sort of the work of Sarah Newton. She's exceptional, I think, in terms of her style. But Fate's a bit of a Marmite game. And interestingly, we had this conversation recently with somebody else. Where is where has Fate gone?
mm,
And so you look at it now, and I'm sure you've got listeners even now jumping up and down saying, "Well, I'm playing it." Well, very good, but it doesn't feel to be quite so much the thing at the moment. It's like they've almost done it, and
mm,
and Evil Hat have moved on a little bit. Maybe I may be doing it a disservice. I still love Fate, but we did that. I did a little bit of writing for Cubicle 7. I did a scenario in the One Ring first edition. Laughter of Dragons was in the
mm,
Laughter of Dragons supplement, so you'll find my name in there somewhere. Um, so yeah, I do a little bit, and most recently, I fancy doing something that harked back to my D&D past, as checkered as it was, but something lighter and more fun. And I was very taken with David Black's The Black Hack.
mm,
It was again a very clever, very simple design, and by simple, I don't mean it was rudimentary. I just mean it was succinct and powerfully did what it had to do in a small number of words. So I had a brief, I'm sure I had a brief conversation with David Black just to say I wouldn't mind developing, building out on the Black Hat a little bit for a heroic fantasy game. Is that all right? Would you mind? And he said, no, of course not. That's part of what it's there for. So I
I
wrote,
think Black Hack is a little gritty, right? That's kind of the vibe.
yeah,
So heroic
yeah,
fantasy,
yeah,
expanding it to kind of more Tolkien-esque or D&D like. I guess we put in quotation marks. That's
yeah.
the idea.
No, definitely. I mean, it's very, very permissive license, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very open about it, which is fantastic. And so, I based it on the first edition of Black Hack, and I wrote Heroic Fantasy, which I've now just put out a second edition for.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of does D&D in about 140 pages, and it's quite light and quite
Nice.
light and fun. But it has got that feel. It's got the
Mm-hmm.
feel of the D&D stuff. And that's been a great. I'm running it actually at a convention.
Oh, good.
Next weekend. So occasionally I do get to run my own games. So.
I know there's a scenario, right, in the second edition book. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a small intro just to give you a feel for it, and I probably should do more with it. Really, I don't know. I should probably write a scenario. Or something.
Write adventure path. No, I'm just
kidding. It'd be short.
Well, yeah.
You can express a monster in like one line.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's just really quick.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of conventions, well, so I will link Graham's catalog at DriveThru, and so basically you publish on demand most of these things that go through DriveThru.
Yeah.
So any thought of doing another type of big project, or just sticking with what? The DriveThru
so we're
publishing model, or no Kickstarters or backer kits?
I think we will. I think I'm going to crowdfund next week. Not next week. Sorry, next year, should I say? I think it'll be next year.
That's for the Age of Arthur, right?
Age of Arthur. I think it'll be crowdfunded.
That sounds very exciting, especially since you distinguished for me, because I'm a long Pendragon fan. I've been playing since the box.
I'm really looking forward to it. The thing about the first edition of Age of Arthur. And I have listened to a podcast with Jason Benke on it, talking about me coming to him. It was quite funny hearing his side of it. So Jason Benke did the art for Age of Arthur first edition. I had no money. I had no crowdfunding, and I had the temerity. Of all things, do you know, it's weird, isn't it? Jason Benke look him up, and perhaps actually we should get a link to Jason also on your show notes. We'll do that. Jason is a fantastic artist, and where I saw him isn't where you would think. And this is a bit of gaming history, so Avalon Hill lost the RuneQuest license.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they do? They produced a game that never published, but was very close. And it was called RuneQuest Slayers. RuneQuest Slayers isn't BRP. It's a different kind of game. And actually, I have to admit, I did get hold of the print files for it, and I did run a couple of games of RuneQuest Slayers. And the art for that was all done by Jason Benke, and it was this incredibly imaginative, evocative kind of art that it wasn't tightly photographically drawn. It left you with lots of spaces to think about what it was evoking, and I thought it was terrific. And so when we came around to Age of Arthur, I don't know what possessed me, because it's not really like me to be this bold, but I just contacted him and said, "Hello, we're going to produce this game, right? You wouldn't like to do the art for it? Here's like an absolute pittance." I don't know what I quoted it for him. I just, and if you want to just do one picture or something, or I can't remember the conversation, but it was really cheeky, actually. Now I think about it, honestly, did I really do that? But he just said, "Yeah, all right. I'm looking to develop my style a little bit. I'll just do the art." So Jason did the art for Age of Arthur, and I've got some of the prints for it on my wall now, and it's lovely. So when it came to the second edition, I thought, no, not this time. This time, I'm going to pay him properly. if he's got the space to do it, and we'll have to see. Jason is on board to do the art, um, and we will be going back to him. But hence the kickstarting, or at least crowdfunding, for it, because we really want to, obviously want to pay the going rate for Jason. His art is developed, and for him, it's an opportunity to go back to the Age of Arthur portfolio and to, if you like, recast it with his current skills and his current sensibilities. So we also would like to do a print run. So that's going to basically cost. And I've got no idea how we're going to do that, because that involves storage and other bits and pieces, which we don't do. So we need to get into some kind of thing. So I think it will be a properly offset printed book. Whether we also provide it as a print on demand through drive-through, I don't really know. We haven't got that far. The text is, well, I finished my parts and Paul is reviewing the sections of the book. So we're closing in on text complete. And we've then got some work to do on the map. And obviously Jason will then become engaged and visualize it beautifully. And Jason actually did the layout, I think, for the liminal book. So if people out there have got the liminal book,
I was going to say,
that's Jason.
Yeah, if you look at liminal, that's his art style, which is very evocative, like you said.
So that's the big project, and probably it'll become a real thing. I'm hoping next year.
If you're a werewolf fan, you should check out his werewolf.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I'm looking at his site right now, the Age of Arthur.
Oh yeah, yeah,
really cool. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, I really do. I mean, I interviewed Del Tiegler about a few months ago, and just talking about art in our genre. It's an amazing discussion. That's fantastic that you got such a prolific and amazing artist work.
Yeah,
it brings it to life. It definitely brings it to
life. Yeah.
And you can
I can't wait to get the book, actually.
his landscape, I mean, it has some different styles already, like his portraiture and subject stuff is a lot of motion, a lot of evocativeness, like you said. But then his landscapes are just really nice. It's really cool. It's cool. Well, that's great. So I guess you also, that's one of your side gigs. I don't know if it's a side gig, but you organize a lot of conventions.
Yeah.
Or so I hear.
Yeah, that's right.
So how did that come about? How is that going? What does that entail?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Oh, I do too many. I do have time on my hands. So I am retired.
Community engagement, though, it's
getting other people in the hobby. I went to a convention about 2000, and it was my first one. I went with a wingman, who sort of basically held my hand and said, "No, come on, be brave." I'm not necessarily bizarre. I'm not socially the most confident sort of person. So having a wingman really helped me. And honestly, I did the thing where my jaw opened and I drooled slightly as I sort of stood next to Greg Stafford, the great man. Yeah. And I met some of my heroes, and they didn't disappoint. They were really lovely people, fantastic people. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh wow! And if you like, the tribe, particularly around Continuum, or I'm not sure what it was called. Was it called Convulsion? No, what was it called before then? Anyway, it was a con something. Around about 2000, lots of nice people who I've stayed friends with for ever since. And I was really taken with it. And when I came back to my hometown, which is Sheffield, I thought, I wonder if we could do just a small convention in our hometown. Partly that means I won't have to travel very far because it'll just be around the corner. And we'll just play some games, and I just wanted that to happen. So I got a couple of friends to help me with it. And crucially, I found a venue, which is the Garrison Hotel in Sheffield. And the Garrison Hotel is actually situated in the extent of a Victorian barracks. Mm-hmm. So the Garrison Hotel itself is the jailhouse of the original barracks. and actually has cells. I mean, you will immediately picture sort of dank, sort of dark little pokey cells, but they are the original cells, but obviously they're carpeted with a table in the middle and a couple of benches to play on. And so we set one up in, well, actually, it, we called it Furnace. We called it Furnace partly because Sheffield is, or was, arguably still is, a steel town. And the idea was Furnace is a forge, so we're forging, creating. So that's kind of the shtick we went for. So Furnace is actually hitting its 20th year this October. So it's a big celebration for us this year. But back then, um, I had no idea. I had no idea if anyone would actually come. I just thought, well, we'll just get a room. I'll pay for the room. So there was a bit of a risk, but it wasn't too much. And we'll see what happens. And what I didn't know at the time was there are people that do conventions. They're like on the circuit, as it were. And I thought it'd be like a local convention for local people. But no, people came from all over the country. I don't think we got anyone international, but we got, people from all different corners of the UK. And it was a great success. So we've just kept doing it. I now run 4 different conventions at the Garrison. I run the Furnace, which is our sort of generic come and run a game. We run Revelation, which is a dedicated to Powered by the Apocalypse and Forged in the Dark net or narrative games. We run North Star, which is a science fiction themed convention. And perhaps my favorite, I'll say it out loud, is one called Long Con. Long Con. So Long Con's format is just different. Most of the others are fairly similar. You've got 5 slots. You play for 3 to 4 hours in a slot, 4 to 6 people, and then everyone swaps around one and plays a different game. For Long Con, you play one game over the weekend. So it's like a mini campaign. You play effectively all of Saturday and the majority of Sunday. And that's also been sufficiently successful that we're going to do that again next year. So yeah, 4 conventions. And I also run a couple of conventions for a group called Aircon, Air as in AIRE, which is a river in Yorkshire. Aircon, which is largely an analog board gaming convention, but I run the RPG track within that convention in Harrogate and Manchester. And in fact, it's the Manchester one I'm going to next week. So that's 6. I run a couple of online ones. So it's mad. It's crazy. But I did it partly because I don't know. I'm not that socially confident. And I think partly for me, it's about getting me out to meet people. I don't do too bad. And I attend other conventions across the UK. There's a vibrant and very full convention calendar in the UK. These conventions are small. We're talking no more than, I don't know. Well, Furnace this year will be 100 people. So it's partly constrained by the venue. So it's small, quite intimate. We all know each other reasonably well. We're very welcoming of new people. We always get new people. But yeah, it was partly that. It was partly I wanted to give something back to the hobby by creating play spaces. And I get a real thrill at hearing the hum of people just enjoying the hobby and playing. So I probably need to scale it back a little bit for me. But yeah, it's just something I enjoy doing.
That's great. So what do you think of the direction that the hobby is going in? Still, I think D&D 5e is king, but then you have another competitor aside from Paizo being thrown out there.
Yeah.
Darrington Press and Daggerheart, which got to play together, which I thought was a fantastic game that really takes a lot of concept from a lot of different games, which is quite interesting, right? So
yeah.
So I mean, how do you, is that? Is it a good trend? Is it you still think is it still truncated? But there's so much, like you said, there's so much creativity out there through independent publishing.
Yeah, it's
So how
interesting.
does it?
I'm
What's the
not.
health of the hobby look like to you as
Yeah,
a
so I.
creative and as a player, longtime player?
It's interesting sort of to try and take that step back and
Hmm.
take a macro view of the hobby as a whole. And I'm not. I'll be absolutely honest. I'm not well informed as to the sort of money side
Mm.
of the hobby. So how are these companies doing? How are the sales? Um, how vibrant is it? How profitable is it? I mean, other than the stories you hear about the behemoth,
Mm.
which obviously is Wizards of the Coast and
Yeah.
Hasbro and D&D 5.24, and all the stories about that gives you something of, I suppose, a flavor on the macro level. From my perception, which is what you asked, so I can give you
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So it may not be well informed in a way. I do all this stuff, but I don't claim to be like an industry expert. My feeling is, I think it cycles every 5 years. I think someone will say, "Oh, the hobby's dying.
Mm.
Oh, it's dying. It's terrible. It's just um, all I see is an endless stream of creativity and options, and I think it's massively vibrant. I'm fascinated. You mentioned Darrington Press. My daughter is now a critter. So I don't think we're going to do it, but I was very tempted to go with my daughter to see them live because
Mm.
they're touring in the UK as well. And I don't know, put some ears on and get some makeup on and go and watch them. Um, but Darrington Press and Daggerheart, we have played it, and I agree with you. It's one of those games where I looked at it and thought, well, I like a lot of the bits that they've drawn inspiration from, but does it work as a coherent
Yeah.
design game? And my takeaway on a very small sample was it played really well. So that's lovely. I wonder. I'm expecting their campaign season 4, for example, for Critical Role will probably be Daggerheart as opposed to. Surely it must
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
which is great. Um, I wish them every success. It has sold like hotcakes. And it's a fascinating time. So you've got the behemoth, and obviously everyone judges everything by the sort of 90%. 90% is D&D, but you've got Draw Steel from is it MCDM, Matt Colville. You've got Paizo and their remaster. You've got Cobalt Press's latest game. Um,
Tales
so
of the Valiant.
Tales of the Valiant. Thank you. I was struggling for that. So even in the sort of heroic fantasy classic stomping ground, you've got 4, 5. I'm sure very good. I mean, I've not played them all. I'm sure all very good games, including, of course, D&D, all vying for your attention. Uh, so I think it's vibrant, and I think you can play so many fantastic games. In fact, it almost. I mean, I'm really taken with Fantasy Craft, which is a game that I don't think. Oh, I don't know how successful it was, but certainly nobody apart from a few strange people like ourselves might be playing it.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so there's a richness of creativity that's coming through, but there's always the back catalogue that you can always go back to and pick up. So I did the same with fourth edition, as I say, fourth edition D&D. And there's just honestly, if you pick up one of these games, you've got years of play,
Sure.
years of play.
Right.
And I'm in my 60s now, so part of me thinks I'm running out of time. How many big campaigns have I got left inside? you know, so I think the hobby's doing great. I mean, there are probably aspects to it that I suppose are reflective of other societal change. So I don't know about your hometown. For me in Sheffield, and it might be a thing about Sheffield as opposed to some of the other larger towns around me. My city, I feel retail is under pressure, as in high street retail, because I think societally and with online selling, it's difficult to maintain a strong and vibrant retail base within our city. I mean, I'm not suggesting we don't have shops and so on. We certainly do, but I think our city is redeveloping itself into a more vibrant place to live and work as much as
Yeah.
to go and buy. Same with game shops. Sort of your local friendly game store. We're very lucky in Sheffield to have Patriot Games, which um, Jim and company run an amazing store there, and it works because he's got a very large space for play. So there's a massive community of people that come and they do a lot of card games, some role play, some miniatures, Warhammer stuff, um, and they've got a great cafe. So it's kind of a hub. So it's not just a shop.
Mhm.
It's very much a place where you go and experience the hobby and have a very nice piece of cake and a cup of tea if you want to as well. But I do wonder if the sort of pressure on the high street friendly game shop has probably been in decline. I would imagine for some time. I don't know whether that's true. Um,
Yeah, it's hard to
so there
say
are
because of
changes.
the diamond debacle. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's their big
Yeah,
distributor here
yeah,
in the U.S. and
yeah,
they've gone bankrupt, and that's where a lot of these retail stores, gaming stores, get their product brought or through. So we'll see how that falls out. But we do have I live in San Antonio, Texas, and we do have many game stores, that cater to, I would say, not just the tabletop role playing, but miniatures games, card games, etc. So we have quite a few,
good.
and it's in competition, which I think is great, right? So where are you
Yeah,
going to play your Friday Night Magic, right? So I think
yeah,
that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing to
yeah.
have
No,
that competition, or where are you going to play your Warhammer 40K, or now they've redone the old world Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So
again, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so I suppose in summary, then, uh, it's I think the hobby is strong. I'd be very interested in the demographics.
yeah.
So I don't know much about that. I'm an old person, um, and I mean my daughter isn't yet 30, and she's really into the hobby, and she got very into it from Critical Role. But she saw Critical Role for what it was. And she's a dungeon master and she runs her games and she runs it her way. And so I know that there's definitely a younger cohort that are coming through and playing. And part of the reason I do conventions is to encourage people to come and
Right.
try it out. And we often get teens, pre-teens, others coming to play. So they are there. So I don't know about the demographics, whether it's an aging hobby, which is
Yeah, it's hard
going
hard to
to
tell.
shrink.
My home group, our ages range from late 20s to mid 50s, so I think that's a
Mm.
pretty good range. It's a group of
Yeah,
guys that get
yeah,
together. I know, when I got to run like at Free RPG Day, and we had some new people coming in, and there was older people like myself, and then there was some young people that joined the games and have looked around and stuff. So I think
yeah.
it's doing pretty well. And then
I hope so.
like you talked about your daughter. Like I was with my mom the other day, and she was saying that a friend of hers, her daughter is a gamer, and she's in her 30s. So I think
Yeah,
there's a good,
yeah.
not just age diversity, but also gender diversity.
Gender,
Yeah, and I
big
think
one
there's
actually.
always
Yeah,
been And I think there's always been a cultural diversity. And growing up in San Antonio, Texas, which has a lot of big Hispanic population,
Yeah.
this hobby and the heavy metal community were always welcoming, no matter what where you're from or what you look like, as long as you enjoyed the hobby or
Yeah.
music, right? So
No,
it's
I think
really
that's true. I think certainly when I joined in 81, it was a
mhm.
lot of teenage and 20s
Yeah, and we've grown up,
white
but
male nerds playing. We not only Dungeons and Dragons Society did have sort of women in it
yeah,
playing as well, um, but it's massively diversified from there and is welcoming.
mhm.
I think of any community, particularly and indeed including sort of some of the more marginal or some marginal communities,
Yeah,
and that's fantastic. And
yeah,
that can only be a strength for the hobby
yes,
going forward.
for sure. Right. All right. Well, last question, Graham, before I let you go. Um, Although I'm sure we could talk for a very long time, or
We
at least
could, couldn't
I'd
we?
listen to you. Um, but what are you playing now? What's the
Ah,
what big adventure campaign are you going to run? You're saying you're running out of time.
right.
But what are you running now? What's your I mean, you said that Traveler's your forever game. I mean, I love
Yeah,
Traveler too. I mean, I run like I think I play in one and run two iterations of Traveler right now myself. So I love that.
great.
I love that game. But what are you playing? What would you like to play? I guess.
Sure. Well, this year now, I said I was retired, right? And it's not all about the numbers. It's not. So, if you've played a few times this year, that's fine. I have played, and it's partly the Dungeon Muser's fault, but actually it's not just him. I've got a rich array of great friends who also run games. So I could literally play or run in a game every single day. I don't do that because I have got a life outside of gaming as well. But I've actually got my stats up. This is the one question I was prepared for. I've got my stats up. I've played 95 game sessions
This
this year
year.
so far.
Oh wow.
I think it averages out, or at least it did by the end of 6 months. I think I was playing nearly a game every 2 days.
Hmm.
Now for me, that's crazy numbers. Um, I am retired. I do actually have other things to do. Um, and I'm looking at the sort of systems that I'm playing at the moment, and it's a rich array. As usual, there is no D&D. I've got nothing against D&D, but I just don't happen to play it very often. Dragonbane,
Hmm.
so
Good game
that's
too.
free leagues, um, very
BRP.
inventive
Yeah,
take
it's
on
kind of a
BRP.
BRP. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just stunning. It's a stunning game, and it's very much KSR, classic Swedish role play, rather than OSR. So it's 100 pages or so, skill based game, very simple to play, um, but has a richness to it for all that. Um, Beautifully done. So I played quite a bit of Dragonbane. I am playing Mongoose Traveller second edition. That tends to be the Traveller that we play. Although I'm about to run Zoza Games'
Oh, nice.
Cepheus Universal, which is another take on Traveller. I'm playing in a Star Trek Adventures Modiphius 2D20 game,
The
which
second
is
edition or
really good.
first?
Simon's gone for the second edition, so
Okay.
he's gone straight in, and it plays very
Nice.
well.
That's
So
good. Yeah,
yeah,
no more effect dice, just
no,
2d20.
just the
Nice. Great.
D20s. Yeah, yeah, it still plays
Yeah.
great,
Hmm.
and it does evoke. I mean, perhaps it's his GMing as well, but it really you do feel like you're in a Star Trek series.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great. It's really good, and I'm just watching Strange New Worlds at the moment, which is onto
Oh
its
yeah,
third
yeah, yeah.
season, and so it's a great synchronicity
Hmm.
at the moment. But the one I'm running predominantly at the moment, and I can't believe I'm British, right? So
Hmm.
it's taking me until what 2025 to get to it, but I have finally got to Warhammer. I play Warhammer, as you know,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Kevin's channel, but I thought I'd run it, and in some ways, I think it might have been Kevin, so the Dungeon Musers. play that made me realize, although I'm British, I mean, really, if you're British, you should be playing Warhammer at least. But I didn't really play first, second, or third edition, so I'm running the enemy within, or at least
Oh,
I'm running the
nice.
enemy in
We
shadows.
wow, we are at the end.
Oh wow,
We are in the Empire in Ruins, and oh my God. I was like, we've been playing for like 4 years since COVID ended, right? So we've been playing, we started with Enemy in the Shadows, and there's still so much excitement. There was like a hurrah in the last because of what happened in the last session. It was a
yeah,
fantastic session, and I don't know. It's a really good. I encourage you to hopefully you sustain it with your group because it's a
I'll try.
fantastic campaign. And
Yeah,
I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for your
sure.
your players or anything. But oh my gosh, I mean, it is like I think what's we always complain about these adventure paths. They're always like world breaking or campaign breaking. But I mean, figure the something like this massive enemy within campaign is a world. It's timeline changing potentially. So I think it's been really
Yeah,
great. Some amazing scenes that we've had. And heroics from the
yeah.
surprising heroics from a bunch of, in my opinion, sometimes jaded players who are on their phones a lot. But it happens, and it's really great.
Yeah.
And
I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's taken me a long time to get to it, but it's like that, isn't it? You were talking
yeah.
about the hobby, the breadth of it. It's so broad.
Mhm.
In fact, you can end up with slight paralysis about what to play and do because there's such a lot. You've got to
Yeah.
pin your flag to something, and I happen to have gone for that one.
Yeah.
But I've played,
I still love D&D. I mean, I'm running an AD&D
yeah,
first edition game, and
okay,
it's one of the biggest hits on the channel, on our small channel. So people still want to see it and like it and
that's
see it.
great.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love
I've played a
Warhammer.
lot of other games, but
Yeah. I'm
I,
always willing to play. I play so many, but yeah, it's great. I tried to do your thing where you determine how, and I gave up because I got distracted. Your thing where you put like you basically, if you guys, I'll let you know. Graham has like he creates a spreadsheet that tracks his games, and then he has like a pie chart, which is really cool, and I'd
that's,
love to do it,
I'm looking at it now.
but I don't know. I don't have the
No,
temperament for
yeah,
that.
I
That's
don't know.
great.
I don't know.
It's,
I'm a
it's a
bit
fu- it's a
weird.
it's definitely a fun exercise. Maybe I should sit
Yeah.
down and not get so distracted and do it. But yeah, it's really neat.
I don't know about your listeners. I don't know, those of you who are listening, do you occasionally look at your shelves and think, I I'm
Well, look,
really, really sad that I haven't got this one. I've read a bit of it. It's gorgeous, but I haven't actually got it out. I haven't played it.
yeah,
I haven't run it. And I've got some, I do have some like that. I managed to get Fading Suns fourth edition out of so that was
yeah.
one that came out.
I know. That was really fun to play. Need to get back to that. But
Love that.
yeah.
Love that. Um, one that I've got, which you might, well, Carl, you might have heard of, but many won't have heard of, is Arcane Asylum's The Gods RPG, which
Hmm.
is a beautiful sword and sorcery
Hmm.
sort of D10 dice pool game. It's as much an art project as a game. It's perhaps one of the most beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful games I've got. So it's a physical work of art, but I haven't got that out. So that might, if I'm thinking of ones that I want to try to bring out, then that might be one that comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I think
But yeah,
looking
it's
behind me on
endless.
my shelf, I think City of Heroes. I'd love to get to the
Oh
table.
yeah,
Some more money game stuff.
yeah.
Leopard Empire, uh,
Oh yeah.
Serenades,
Yeah, Tunnels and Trolls or
Tunnels and
Monsters and
Trolls,
Monsters.
Monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a really cool looking book. Sort of
yeah.
that sort of a jungle sword and sorcery. But
Cypher's an interesting one. You mentioned Monty
yeah,
Cook.
Cipher.
Cypher's an interesting
Yeah,
one. Because they are bringing out a new Cypher next
yeah,
year. Um, I don't. Cypher's a strange one because I do. I've run some Numenera. I do like Cypher. I don't really understand the ciphers. I can live without them, frankly. So, um, but the actual game itself is great. But I'll tell you one that's coming that just to sort of say the future, so that
Yeah.
I'm running lots of. So the future one that I haven't run yet, but I will run at Furnace 20 in October, is a game that I got introduced to because I go to conventions and you get to play lots of stuff. And there's a guy, again, Dom, who did the layout for Wordplay. He's also prolifically runs City of the Mist, which is it Oak Studios?
Oh, is it mean
Tag based.
City of Heroes? Maybe? No, you're right. City. That's what I meant. City of Heroes is the MMO that it reminds
Oh,
me of.
is it?
City of
Okay.
Mist. That's it. Yeah, City of Mist. Yes.
Yeah. And again, it harks back. See, it's
Yeah.
interesting how these things all it harks back a bit to Hero Quest because it's like a trait-based game
Yeah.
or tags as they call it.
Tags, right? Yeah, powered
Um,
by the apocalypse. Yeah.
Resolution in the
Yeah.
middle there, so you get your sort of two dice. You add every tag that comes in, and you get a sort of 10 plus. You get exactly what you want. 7 to 9, you get
Yeah.
like a sort of success with consequence and so on.
Yeah.
But they're bringing out something called Legend in the Mist, which is their
Oh
rustic
yes.
fantasy.
Right.
I tell you what, I'm very excited about that. I think that could be a very big game for me. It touches on the things I was doing with wordplay. I mean, it's stunning. I mean, wordplay's a 100 page sort of text tract. This is an absolutely sumptuous game, and it is tag based. And it is got that rustic fantasy feel, so it's looking into community rather than necessarily, the big sort of heroic fantasy stuff. Um, I think that could be an outstanding game for me. So even now, I'm 44 years on in terms of the hobby. I still get excited about the next.
The
I'm
new
still
game. Yeah.
what the new game, the next thing, and that's one that I think could be big for me.
That's great. Well, that's a great way to end our conversation, Graham. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Geomologist Presents. I look forward to hanging out with you, usually on Kevin's channel, and
Yeah,
playing some games. I think we have something this weekend as we're
we do.
recording. So something fun and exciting that Kevin, the Dungeon Muser, has put together. But I look forward also to, I should be getting Heroic Fantasy second edition soon from Drive Through. So I
Okay.
look
Oh,
forward to
great.
looking at that, maybe running some Black Hack on the channel
Yeah.
and
Nice.
the like. And maybe one of these days we'll get some Mindjammer
Yeah.
in play. So
Yeah, that'd be
it's
great.
been some time since I played some Fate. All right. Well, thanks so much, Graham, and have a great day, great weekend.
Thanks, Carl, and thanks very much for the invite.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Graham and I have a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions for he or I, please leave a message at the usual places, geomologist@gmail.com, shoot me a line via the Discord, or leave a short message on the SpeakPipe account linked in the show notes. I also included several show notes for Graham's work and what you can check out of his work, especially on Drive Through RPG. So the cover art will probably be the cover of Heroic Fantasy. I haven't decided yet, and I got to talk to Graham. I don't know if there's a First Age Entertainment logo anywhere. Also, the intro and outro is done by the estimable TJ, and I will talk to you all later. Good night. Good rolling.